This is the emergency podcast system. This is not a test. Movies are bombing all over the country. They are posing as movies you already know. They may already be in your theaters, your neighbor's home, or even your own. Do not panic. Specialists have been dispatched. They will help you identify these pretenders and defend you against this invasion of the remake. Please stand by for further instructions.
Welcome to the Invasion of the Remake podcast. I'm your host, Jason Bishop, and with me today, as always, is Sam Stepanenko.
Not always, but most of the time, yeah.
Most of the time. And sitting in Trisha's spot is nobody at all, because, you know, she's off on a different front over in the Maritimes, checking out the war over there, the war on the remakes that we love to do. We're here at the front lines again. And with Ben-Hur opening this week in the theaters, we realized they're coming at us from all angles and fast and furious at this point, not as a reference to that movie. But, you know, they're coming at us really quickly now. And we thought we'd make you aware of the threat of the remakes and what is coming. In our research, it's a really long list.
It is a really long list. And we'll share our thoughts on some of them, not all of them, because the list is too freaking long.
Yeah, we'll hit some notes, let you be aware of them, and the less we talk about them, the less we probably like them.
Or we just don't care.
Or we don't care. We'll try to give you our opinions on them as we go. We are sourcing this list from Den of Geek, along with a little combination of some other sources. I got IMDb up here as well, and we'll try to get you as much information as we can, but these are movies that are in progress. Directors change, producers change, everything changes on these things on the fly. There's some are ready to go, and some are coming soon, and some may never happen at all. I think we'll maybe do this kind of thing once a year, just to let you guys know what's going on. And given the state of movies and television, they don't seem to want to think up new properties very often, or at least take the risk. And it is a risk. You know, why try something, let's go to something we've tried and has worked before. And I can totally see why they would, rather than think up something that they have no idea how it's going to perform. The people out there might think that they're doing this all the time, and that's not true.
No, it's not. There are original materials coming out.
Yeah.
But I do have to say that some of the movies on this list are people going back to a well where it was a unique and original idea, and that worked really well, and now they're going back to it again. And we'll talk about it in specifics, but there's some definite questions about the rationale behind making some of these decisions.
Yeah, now on this list, we're going to see a lot of Universal Monster stuff, because not that long ago they announced that they want to do a Marvel unified universe within the Universal Monsters franchises. So naturally, of course, there's going to be reboots of all sorts of Universal properties on this list. And right now, Disney seems to be really freakish about turning all their cartoons into live action. So there are going to be a lot of those on this list as well.
Yeah, and those ones, there's a few of them.
I can't say I've seen a ton of them yet. I guess there aren't a ton of them at all, but I don't think I liked any of the Snow White ones that came out so far. Didn't like Alice in Wonderland. I did like Maleficent, though. So,
and I'll be honest, I haven't seen it yet. And
I haven't seen Jungle Book, but it looked spectacular from the trailers, and I think it's out on DVD here pretty quick.
It's Jon Favreau, and I think he's yet to direct a bad movie. He's been in bad movies.
Cowboys and Aliens.
I disagree. I enjoyed that movie.
It sucked. But it was based on a shitty comic book too. Like, the comic book was shit, and so was the movie. So at least it was accurate. The story
behind that getting made is pretty freaking amazing.
There should be a documentary just on that alone. That's far more interesting than that movie was.
The movie was a bit of a stretch, but I don't blame Jon Favreau for the story, because he wasn't responsible for that, and he did the best he could with it. But the concept was solid. But there was some stuff missing for sure.
Given that comic book, I can't believe it attracted the cast it did. But
it's Jon Favreau, because he's talented in front of and behind the camera.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm going to run the trailer for Ben-Hur, which just opened, as of this recording, Friday. So it's been open for 2 days. I don't know how it's performing, and it is a remake of the classic Charlton Heston film of the same name. And, watching this trailer, I feel like it's... Yeah, well, I think it's still fairly true to the source material, but they've gone that action-y Roman thing along with, the sports movie. It feels like a little combination of both. I'm like, I don't know if this is really my thing, but, I've never watched the original Ben-Hur either, so that could be an upcoming episodes soon-ish. I don't know if we'll get a chance to go to the theater to see it, so it might be once it hits DVD, Blu-ray. So, but here's the trailer for now, and you guys can make up your own minds in the theaters. Here's your free plug, movie people.
No matter where you're from, this step is your body. That drum is your heartbeat. And your God is the glory of Rome. Praise for Remakes! How long were you a slave?
5 years.
What is your name?
Ben-Hur. My family was one of the most respected in Jerusalem. Welcome home.
Please, I need you to tell me who Am's enemies are.
Masala, I won't name names until we were betrayed. By my own brother.
Masala! You know we've done nothing wrong. Rome's calling for blood. Crucify them.
No! The world you live in is Rome's. Their laws, their power.
I won't let Masala go unpunished for what he's done to us. Our mother and sister. Was it a quick death?
Coward!
My family, they deserve justice for what's happened to them.
There is a way. In the arena, there is no law. Racing is a blood sport. If you lose, you die. If your brother is the pride of Rome, defeat him and you'll defeat an empire. Then you will have your vengeance.
You have a voice. People would follow you. I would follow you.
Go!
Should have stayed away.
You should have killed me.
I will.
Remember, first to finish,
Last to die.
are we having fun now, brother? Stand and fight! Stand up now!
First to win, last to die. I like that tagline. Now, doesn't look like it has the epicness of the original, though, so...
But not having not seen either of them, it's hard to say for sure.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
They're trying to make an action-packed trailer, and that's the thing. The trailers don't always deliver what we're going to see on screen. They're trying to make the most engaging trailer they can.
To get seats and seats, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Now, we're going to go through this list. 110 movies, 109 movies. That's a lot of movies to go through. We're going to spend more time on some and less time on others. So, here we go. So, first one up is Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. Now, rebooting this, honestly, I don't know if you agree with me here, but without Jim Carrey, they got nothing.
I really don't see the point. I mean, it was a failed franchise to begin with. The first movie was very popular. Second one, less popular, actually got panned really badly. And then they had the Ace Ventura Jr. movie.
Yeah, and that just went to show you that doing Ace Ventura without Jim Carrey doesn't work.
And we talked about this earlier, is this type of comedy doesn't seem to be topical anymore. People are not really interested in this over-the-top type of comedy right now.
Yeah. I mean, really, it did feel like a sketch character brought to film, like an SNL character or a Second City character or whatever. It felt like this was a character that was in Jim's mind. It's fully created and realized by Jim Carrey, and everybody else is just doing an imitation of it. So, personally, I think let it be what it is and let it die.
It's a thumbs down from me, Jay.
Yep. We're going there, are we?
We're going there.
Next one up is Akira, and this is based on the classic Japanese anime. it's going to be very big, very expensive if they do finally get this off the ground. It's been in the works for quite some time, and trying to rework this with I don't know, American audiences in mind, or a broader global thing in mind. Personally, I'd like to see it stay in Japan.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, just with the title, it should remain in Japan, no question.
Yeah.
And Tokyo is such a wonderful setting for movies like this.
Yeah. Now, Chris Nolan seems to be currently dancing around this project, but a bunch of people have, so who knows?
I think I could really get behind it with Christopher Nolan on it. I think he'll capture some of the really cerebral aspects of the original.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so visually stunning to watch that even now. It still stands up. So it doesn't need to be remade, but I think if it was done right, it could be a really great live-action film.
Yeah, and Marco J. Ramirez, who's the showrunner for Season 2 of Daredevil on Netflix, is also kind of attached to this thing. And he can do action. We've seen that in the Netflix show, and what he could do on a big scope and a big scale would be really intriguing. But this is going to be a tough one to adapt because it is a very Japanese kind of movie. I don't think all animes are racial specific, but Japan seems to be the big that big city kind of thing. That it feels like it should stay in Japan.
It does, because the city is almost a character in this particular film.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, one we'll talk about a little bit later on is another anime to film called Ghost in the Shell. So we'll talk about that when we get there. But that one might follow some different rules.
Yes.
Alienation they're talking about. It was a movie and a TV series. The original movie was 1988, James Caan and Mandy Patinkin, and apparently there's a draft being done by the guys who were currently doing the Planet of the Apes, or did the Planet of the Apes screenplay, so they're going to try to keep it a smart film. I'm not sure what you could really do here. It's about an alien race that is forced to live with the humans. It takes refuge with humanity. So I don't remember what they're fleeing from. They were a servitude race that kind of meshes in with society, and it really is a commentary on race and everything else.
And it's already almost been remade as District 9.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We've kind of had it again and done well as a commentary, so maybe changing the message here, or just straight up maybe go a little bit earlier when they first arrive and what they're fleeing from. What's that other threat?
Yeah, well, it was also police procedural, and that's what made it interesting. I think more so than even the commentary, because when that movie came out, I mean, I was still pretty young, and most of the commentary did slip right over my head. So, it could be remade. Well, it may be remade, but I don't know what they're going to bring to it to make it fresh and new.
Yeah.
Aside from updating it to a current setting, which doesn't always work anyhow.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what there is to change there, but giving a fresh coat of paint might be all it really needs. Just reintroduce it, because I think it's kind of a forgotten property at this point.
It really is.
These kids.
I'll be honest, when I first heard about it, I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of, okay.
Yeah, so, it's take it or leave it scenario. I don't know much about this one. A Prophet, which is a remake of a French-Italian movie, crime movie. I'm hearing great things about it. Although when I was doing my research, it hadn't even made its budget back yet. Yeah. So I don't know. It sounds like it's hitting with the critics, but not the fans. So I'm not. I kind of question the remake. But with Sam Raimi circling it, there might be something a lot there. I don't know anything really about this movie. So
well, and what the reason it might not be making its budget back is distribution, right?
Yeah, and that is a problem with international stuff. If at a budget, I think of about 14 million or whatever. So.
And that's a pretty big budget for a film that's not necessarily got distribution outside of its home country. Yeah,
I mean, it's close. From what I was looking at, it's only about 4 million out. So if you can get an international release of the original movie to kind of push the remake prior to the remake coming out, it's probably going to do fine.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Now, they have Batman on this list, which is bullshit, because that's just tying into the new thing. It's not a remake. I don't even want to say reboot. It's just, here's your new Batman. Here's your new take. We already know that's Ben Affleck, so moving on. Okay, Beauty and the Beast. This is the first of our many Disney movies that It's getting animated. It's going to have some new music. Bill Condon, who recently directed the really wonderful Mr. Holmes movie, and I think they're teaming with Twilight Pictures. Emma Watson, Dan Stevens, Luke Evans, Josh Gad, Emma Thompson, and Kevin Kline are to lead this movie with the scheduled release of March of next year.
Yeah, don't care. Sorry, unless you have children under the age of 13, or you're a die-hard Disney fan, it's hard to buy into any of these live-action remakes of Disney films.
I personally agree with you. It doesn't interest me at all. Jungle Book was the most interesting me, mainly because it's probably my favorite Disney film, and I still didn't go see it.
Yes.
So, I'm a 43-year-old man. It's fine. I don't need to see any of these, and it's not for me. But it'll probably do well with children and
with the tweens and younger, and possibly even
20-somethings probably.
20-somethings, that 20-something female audience that are especially who are into those romantic films. Right? And I'm not criticizing it, but that is the target audience.
Yeah, and now when Disney had that 90s renaissance, I was already an adult.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the kids from that time are now adults, and I think that's who it's really geared towards, those mid-20s, those early to mid-20 guys that are the key movie-going audience, reliving their youth. It certainly isn't for us who are already grown up by that point. So, not for me, but for other people. Now, I don't know much about this movie, Big Man in Japan. It's a remake, obviously, of a Japanese comedy kaiju movie.
Yeah, and I know zero about it. The only reason that I really wanted to talk about this one is because of who is attached to it right now. Because they've already fucked up twice. Why are you hiring them again?
That's right. We are talking about Matt Manfredi and Phil Hay, who were responsible for Clash of the Titans and R.I.P.D. And if anybody wants our take on Clash of the Titans, go listen to episode 43.
Exactly.
Yeah, not a great track record from these people.
Yeah, and that's the only reason I want to even talk about that one.
Yeah, so if it interests you at all, just go find the Japanese one. They're usually better anyway. Now, I'm actually on board for this one, the remake of Big Trouble in Little China. It is a cult film. I think a lot of people aren't going to really care, and that might be what holds the sucker back. But I love this movie, the original movie, and they currently have Dwayne Johnson, who's attached to half of the remakes on this list.
He is, and I love Dwayne Johnson. I really do. I think he's a talented action actor, but I don't want to see him in this role. I like that Kurt Russell style, the leaner, smaller action hero. Right? Dwayne Johnson is freaking huge.
He's definitely huge. It's going to be a different character, and I don't want him to be him trying to be Kurt Russell in this.
Oh no, not by any means. But I don't see. I still don't see that character. As
I don't see a big guy like him being a truck driver.
No,
either. So there's going to be, I think, some massive changes there. But The Rock, if you just think about that personality he had in the ring, during the height of his wrestling career, I'm like, yeah, I could totally see that. That's that over-the-topness that they did bring to that movie.
Yeah, I just don't... Because of the character in this movie was the reluctant action hero, and but Dwayne Johnson looks like an action hero, right? Like, he's big, he's imposing, right? He's got that big personality. Like, he's really well cast in the hero roles. But
yeah, I disagree about the reluctant part of it. He gets pulled into something he didn't really want to be in, but at the same time, he's there with, he's jumping in the fray at any given moment. So,
yeah, I mean, by reluctant, I mean the fact that he just did not want to get involved.
Yeah,
right, and he didn't.
He just wanted his money.
He just wanted his money, but he had no interest in being a hero or a better man. It's just whenever your situation comes up, that's the type of character he was. He dealt with it, right?
Yeah.
And I just with Dwayne Johnson, I just see him being the guy. Okay, let's go. Right? There's no question in his mind that he needs to go to help or do what needs to be done. Well, I'll reserve judgment. This is one of at least 2 John Carpenter films that are on this list too.
Yeah, the next one we got up is Hitchcock, and there's a few of those as well. Maybe we'll do a full episode on remaking Big Trouble Little China and tell Hollywood how to do this before they get a chance to put it out. And maybe they'll take some of our suggestions in mind. Now, I'll have to keep in mind The Rock, but it's really up to the writing. Write around your actor.
Yeah.
Don't try to recapture what that first movie did. You know, it's different guy, different dynamic. So make sure that's the key, I think, with that character is you got to keep that in mind and write around it. And it could be a very different type of franchise at that point.
It could be very...
And I think that's what they're thinking is franchise.
And I mean, certainly The Rock is definitely tying himself to as many franchises as he can. I think he's...
Now, personally, I don't think there's a franchise there. You know, despite them doing it in comic books and stuff, it's a one-off movie.
It really is.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, was there not a comic book series?
Yeah, it's still going.
Still going. So there is a wealth of material there, so they could, potentially.
Yeah, actually, Boom Studios has a crossover book next with Big Trouble Little China and Escape from New York.
Oh, do we want to skip over and just might as well talk about that right now?
I even the concept baffles me entirely.
Especially considering, I mean, in the movies, both characters are played by the same actor.
Yeah. So there are going to be a lot of identity problems in that movie.
There could be if you're going with the same casting for sure, but it's not obviously
different timelines and everything else.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even know how they get that together. And our first Hitchcock movie of the show, The Birds. I don't know. I don't see it.
I don't either. It's not...
Given the nature of thrillers and horrors these days, I just don't see it. I don't see anything really big there.
We don't have the innocence that they had when that movie came out.
Yeah.
We're subjected to far more horrific things on a day-to-day basis, just through regular media, not including the extremes that horror and suspense thrillers have gone to frighten us. And I don't know what you could add to that movie to make it better.
Yeah.
Right?
And let's face it, there was Birdemic a few years ago, and it is now one of the worst movies of all time. So, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see anything really there, unless you really concentrate on the characters and the psychological impact it has on them during this weirdness. It's really got to be a character-driven movie rather than a horror movie, and you really need some strong actors to pull
and some really strong writers.
And the thing is, that's not what the audience is going to be attracted by. They're going to think horror movie, and you go into a more of a dramatic piece, and they're going to be pissed off. So I don't know. I think it's a lose-lose.
Yeah, unless they push it the way they did with The Mist, where it was character-driven.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
And that one worked, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, I mean, I won't even say I'm even remotely interested.
Yeah. Now, next one up is one I've been kind of wanting to see for a while, is The Black Hole, Disney's Black Hole. Now, Joseph Kosinski, who is originally attached to Tron 3, is attached to this movie, and since Tron 3 is now dead again, maybe that puts him back on there. Either way, this guy's getting a lot of work from Disney. I think there's quite a bit here. It's got a fucked up ending that somebody's got to rework that ending. I'm thinking they're probably going to go full on reboot with this, but it's nice to see remakes of actual science fiction movies, not these kind of modern day with a little bit of sci-fi thrown in. Like, we're getting some hardcore science fiction movies coming back, and that thrills me.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about that. And Black Hole, I mean, I have only very vague memories of it, but I remember really enjoying it as a kid.
Yeah, I remember these kind of cartoony robots, so I think that'll change a bit. But I'm thinking they'll probably go a little more Guardians of the Galaxy with it, but there's a lot of thoughtfulness in there as well, so I don't know.
Yeah, and I remember it not doing very well, and it was very dark for a Disney film in the early to mid-'80s.
Yeah.
Along with Black Cauldron, and I mean, it's not... Actually, Black Cauldron, I think, is on the remake list somewhere. They're talking about remaking that or rebooting it, which was one of my favorite Disney films.
Another live-action thing, maybe?
Maybe. I don't know if it's on the list we have here, but I know I remember reading something about how they want to revisit that story and world. Because, again, really dark, did not do well for a Disney film. It was probably one of the worst performing Disney films ever.
Well, didn't we already have a science fiction about a black hole recently?
Yeah.
With Chris Nolan.
Yep.
Somebody remember that? I don't know. Maybe that the timing of that's kind of bad. Of course, Marvel's thinking about Blade since they now have the rights back to that. I guess they are in talks with Wesley Snipes, but given his age, I think I would move into new casting on that particular thing. But they've tried a TV series on Spike. It failed, although it was pretty flat in tone, and I don't think anybody knew it was on.
I knew about it. I never actually watched it.
It was well produced, but it was kind of flat. So I don't know if they're thinking Netflix thing or full-on film thing with Doctor Strange coming out, moving into the creepy characters. Might be a good thing, and that might be a good place to reintroduce the character. Now, if they went and brought Blade back and wanted Wesley Snipes back to continue the role, I think it'd be more of a mentor role because now of an age to have a kid of his own, and maybe there's your new Blade, right? It's not something they've done in the comics yet, but I think they've been thinking about it. So
yeah, and I'm not sure. Like I said, because I said, I mean, he is a vampire. He's not supposed to age, at least not like a typical human being, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, he was born vampire.
Exactly, but even so, you'd still expect him to age slower.
Yeah, which is why I think recasting, as much as I'm sure Wesley wants to have something back in his career to bank on, I think it's just too old.
You know, I really do. I have to agree. I mean, he still looks pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much longer he can play this type of role.
Yeah, exactly. When you're in the Expendables, that's the old man action crew. So yeah.
It is. Well, he's in his 50s, so he's not young.
Yeah. The next one up is The Blob. Go to our episode 19 of our take on the two that already exist, but they are talking about another kick at the cat with, of course, modern special effects, and director Simon West from Con Air is attached to this film.
Yeah, I think
we've had a couple of good ones already.
Yeah, I wasn't part of that episode, but if I remember correctly, you guys mentioned something about how they seem to want to do it every 30 years.
Yeah, right on cue.
Yeah. So I think that's enough said about that, actually.
Yeah, honestly, it's just, what are you going to do different here and make it your own?
Yeah.
And what's the commentary here? So make it a message movie, because let's face it, The Blob is fun to watch, but not that particularly interesting on a narrative standpoint. So again, wraps around your characters, and what do you got to say about it? So there was a lot to say about that remake version that we talk about in episode 19. I'm not going to get into it. Just go listen to that one, and you'll kind of figure out what we're talking about. Now, a movie we've been talking about maybe doing on the show is Bloodsport. So now it's on the list. Bloodsport is being talked about. No Jean-Claude Van Damme this time. I think the only person... Oh, actually, I don't even know who's attached to this movie. It looks like Philip Noyce from Clear and Present Danger and Rabbit Proof Fence. It was once attached to this. I don't know if he still is. I don't know what there's to say about it. It's a sports combat movie.
You know what, why?
I mean, you're going to have to make it a more character-driven movie to make it interesting.
Sorry, just why?
Yeah, why? And this one makes me laugh. Blue Thunder. Now they're talking about bringing this helicopter action movie into the modern day as a drone.
Okay, keep going. Just keep going.
I'm like, so nobody's flying at all? Wait, what? So it's going to be about a guy on the computer on the ground? That sounds really fucking boring. Okay, next, Car Wash. Richard Pryor, 1976. They're talking about a remake. I don't know if that sense of humor is kind of invoked.
Is
right
it
now.
Culturally relevant?
True.
Right, when that movie came out, I mean, car washes were a thing, and there was a lot of hands-on. There's some sort of the car wash was a venue like a drive-in restaurant or a drive-in theater, right? To keep the car references going, but there was a lot happening on there.
Or at least the driving force behind a really bad porn movie.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, but do we see that anymore? Most car washes are automated. You don't see these, at least not in Canada.
Oh, hey, you could just combine it with Blue Thunder and the drone there. Maybe you'll be able to robotize enough plot out of both of them.
Maybe, yeah, but yeah, again, I don't think it has the same cultural relevance that it did in the 70s.
Yeah, I agree. Charlie's Angels, again, they're talking about it. It's had a couple TV series now, 3, I think. And, of course, the 2 movies. Its last iteration as a feature was 2003's Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. There were only 2 of those. Elizabeth Banks is kind of circling that one, who after directing Pitch Perfect 2. So
This falls on my Y list.
yeah, well, I do like the idea. I've always liked the idea of Charlie's Angels, but they can't seem to get it going. So
No,
it's like a lawnmower that doesn't want to start.
it really is. I mean, I enjoyed the first of the ones with Drew Barrymore and Lucy Liu, and it was a fun throwaway movie. But Full Throttle, it already had moved into camp.
Yeah, I wasn't particularly fond of either one of those movies. I think the part I most enjoyed was Bill Murray's Bosley. So
And Sam Rockwell is the bad guy in the first one.
yeah,
because
yeah.
Sam Rockwell owns the screen every time he's on it.
yeah, not particularly a fan of either one of them. Not sure it's even relevant anymore.
No, when you're looking at 70s properties and you've not been able to get them rebooted, and these really are reboots at this point over the course of time.
Yeah,
it's like we were talking about
but
last week in
doesn't-
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it doesn't age very well. This covert group of women, not as well as Mission Impossible did.
No, I think because Mission Impossible is kind of this global espionage thing, which still is relevant.
I mean, I
right?
suppose you could push it in that direction, but it really feels like somebody's hiring these girls, and it's more of a vigilante thing.
Yeah, and because
doesn't
the
make a lot of
private
sense.
detective agency stuff doesn't really work unless you set it in the 70s, like was really well done in Nice Guys. Right, really well done in that, and a lot of fun. If you haven't seen it, see it. Plug for another movie, sorry, but yeah, I think if you did it as a period piece, and I hate to say period piece about the 70s, but it is, then it might work. Right, take it out of our modern day and age and go back to the source material. And then it could work.
That could be the secret, actually, is put it back in its time period. I think that might help it out a lot.
I think so, too. And people are starting to enjoy seeing these movies because for a lot of the movie-going audience, they weren't alive when these originals came out. And it's fun for them to see what it looked like, right?
Yeah.
Or what the directors and casting directors and costume directors' vision of that would look like. But it's still... And it is a lot of fun to sort of see that, even if you grew up in that time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that might be the trick.
Yeah, that might be totally. Next one up is Cliffhanger. This has been on the list for a while, and Cliffhanger was originally in 1990, starring Sylvester Stallone. Honestly, I'm not sure what's here. Producer Neil Moritz, who was responsible for the Total Recall remake and rebooting 21 Jump Street as a film, is circling this one right now. Honestly, has special effects, like it's the guy climbing a mountain. It's an action movie in a mountain. Is there anything that really needs to change here?
It's tough because you're right. But, I mean, what can you add to it to make it a better film or more? I mean, and just hearing you spout out those facts about it coming in 1990 makes me feel really old. But beyond that, I mean, credit where credit's due. He did a really great job with that Total Recall remake, which we haven't done on the show yet, but I know it's coming in, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. But he's got one hit and one miss for me as far as his remake stuff goes.
Yeah, everybody knows how I feel about 21 Jump Street.
So
it's hard for me to say that movie's name without saying "fuck that movie."
Yeah, but I agree. But so I'm going to reserve judgment because I mean, Cliffhanger wasn't that great of a movie to begin with.
Yeah,
right?
it was part of that. We just need a hook in the 90s. There wasn't a lot to push that. It really came down to performances in that movie. And
there were some good ones.
Because God knows the remorseful Sylvester Stallone was probably the most awkward parts of that movie, where, that opening where he loses a friend and walks off and he's all sad and mopey.
Yep.
And it's
like we haven't seen that before.
Yeah, but it's also the worst parts of that movie.
Yeah.
So, all right, next one up, and Trish is going to be very upset. She missed this one, Clue, one of her favorite movies from 1985, the comedy yarn from that time. Now, it seems like they want to make this a global thing with the remake, with Hasbro trying to basically make movies out of all their properties. I think there's something here with Clue, but taking it on a global front right off the bat, I think they should keep it the mystery in the big house.
They should, and maybe not so over the top with the comedy.
No, I actually...
I love the 1985 movie, but don't get me wrong.
You've got a comedy. It's sitting there. It's wonderful. Let's not do a comedy. Let's do a serious murder mystery.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just play it straight.
Or mostly straight. Like, it was just a little hints of comedy, but nothing over the top.
Sure.
Because it does go really over the top in the original movie. I loved the 4 different endings.
Yeah, I mean, I think that stands as a nice cult thing, and I don't think you want to try to recapture that because it wasn't overly successful when it came out.
No, it wasn't.
It became a cult thing down the road.
It did.
Now, just let that be. It didn't overly work, but it's finding its audience now. Just let that breathe. You can always re-release it, and yeah, go serious thriller with this. And it really is going to come down to an interesting cast again.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, that's what makes the original one work so well. I mean, you have Tim Curry, Madeline Kahn. Oh, geez, I can't remember who else is in that, but I remember those 2 actors, obviously.
And I love the hook of multiple endings. So
yes.
I don't know. Maybe they should keep that, but that makes it a really
I think it'd be a lot of fun.
It's probably a lot easier to do now because back then it was prints. Now it's just digital delivery. You got version 1, you got version 2.
You could have so much fun in theaters as you can go to the theater and never know which ending you got.
Yeah, and like a big city like Calgary or New York or wherever, spread them out.
Yep.
Within the city, and you can go see it multiple views. It might be a good hook.
It could be a very good hook.
They do have The Craft on this list, but since probably this list was done, it has now come out that The Craft is not a remake, but
it's a continuation of the original story, of the original universe. None of the original cast are in it, but it does reference the original material and is a follow-up piece to it. It's not a straight-up remake.
Yeah, although they have had in-continuity remakes before. I call Force Awakens that one.
Yep.
The more recent Thing movie was a prequel, but still basically rehashed everything that we'd seen before. So could still be a soft remake.
Yes.
Creature from the Black Lagoon. This is one I've been wanting to do on the show, so we might try to beat them to the punch on this one. But Creature of the Black Lagoon is one of the Universal franchises, I assume, that's going to tie into their big world of monsters. And I do believe Scarlett Johansson's attached to this one as the female that the creature is interested in. I always like the Universal monsters because they are tragic.
They're not evil. Most of them. They're monsters in due to circumstance, not just due to desire.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like a monster would be like Hitler. He's a monster, a true monster. The Creature from the Black Lagoon, the Mummy, the Wolfman, Frankenstein's monster. Those are tragic monsters. They're monsters due to their circumstances and the way they look, rather than.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes these characters work. Is, I mean, they may have been horror movies back in the 40s, but we have a different definition of what that is, and that's just not what they are anymore. And I like the monster hook of a character that's not being malicious. I mean, in this case, I think he just wants to breed.
Yeah, I mean, and
he likes the pretty flower.
Yeah, with most of the Universal horror movies, most of the time you actually empathize with the creature.
Yeah,
right. Let's not call them monsters. Let's call them creatures because that's what they are. Mm-hmm. Right. Very rarely are they truly monstrous. I think Dracula is the only one who really is kind of monstrous. But yeah, I mean, when you look at like the ones we mentioned, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Where the Wolfman kind of monstrous just due to the nature of the beast he becomes.
Yeah, but, I mean, some of them are more feral based on their transformations. This one I'd put in that Bigfoot kind of cryptid style where could be mildly intelligent, defending its territory, and sees a potential mate.
Yeah.
You know, the conceits are fairly simple here and could still work today. So I'm on board. The only thing that might be holding it back is audiences' views on Scarlett Johansson, who's been pushed as an action hero for several years now. So is that the way they're going to go? Is not have the heroic male role anymore? She's going to be the front and center, and it's going to be more of an action piece with the femme fatale.
I certainly hope not.
I want to see her not just shed the action role for a movie.
Yeah. I mean, she kind of did in that science fiction horror film that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head right now, where she plays the alien. Mm-hmm. That's not really an action film. I mean,
was it Under My Skin? Or
something like that. I don't recall the exact name of it.
Yeah,
but
me neither.
Unfortunate, because it was really entertaining. Or not entertaining, but interesting. It was really slow-paced, but it was interesting. But I'll be honest, I'm suffering from Scarlett Johansson overload.
Yeah, maybe, and she's going to come up again on this list, so we're going to get overloaded. Next one up on the list is The Crow, another perceived reboot of this. I don't think anybody's attached for the main role right now. Jason Momoa was attached at one point. I don't know. I mean, it can still work. I think there's going to be a lot of people not happy just because of
the tragic,
the tragic
history
death
of the movie,
of
Jason Lee,
and
is it Jason Lee?
No,
Brandon Lee, Jason Lee's the skateboarding actor, yes.
No, the tragic death of Brandon Lee on the role. I don't, as much as I see the point. It's the character existed prior to that. They did a fine adaptation, but it wasn't the adaptation that was sitting in my head when I read the graphic novel.
No.
I think there might be something here. I don't know if it's there's going to be enough interest in it, and it's I think a wait and see kind of thing.
Yeah, it really is for me as well, because I love the character, even though it has been poorly adapted several times since the Brandon Lee movie.
Yeah,
with there's two follow-up movies and a TV series.
Yeah,
right,
so it's not like they haven't done this already and gone back to the well. Like the sequels really were all different characters. They don't have to do Eric Draven. So
no, not unless you really want to go back to the original source material and do it right. Do a Robert Rodriguez true to comic adaptation.
Yeah,
and I could see that working.
Yeah, I can too. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'm a fan of the first one. I'm open to another one, but since I've seen 2 and 3 and parts of the TV series, I've become a lot less interested in the franchise as a whole. So
fair enough. I have to agree. I mean, to me, as far as I'm concerned, the comics are still superior to any of the movies.
Yeah, and honestly, they've done lots of different versions of The Crow and new comics. I've never been interested past the original graphic novels. So
James O'Barr's original stuff was still the best. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Cube on this list, Canadian low budget movie. They're looking at. They don't have much information on this one. It's a simple, trapped in a room concept, really, and they've done a couple of sequels since, and not to the effect of the original. I think there's actually 4 in total.
Something like that, yeah.
There's Cube 0, 1, and 2. I think there's a 3. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. Yeah. And they are actually calling this one Cubed, which makes me question whether this is actually a reboot or not. So
yeah, and you know what?
And I'm not even sure if there's enough interest in it to bother.
It's been almost too long, especially if you're trying to work off the success of the original series of movies.
And we've had lots of horror movies trapped in a room type of ideas now. Saw did it, and there's been tons.
There have been tons, yeah.
So I don't know. It's just at this point we've seen a lot of these. So
this is one of those movies where they captured lightning in a bottle with it, and I don't know if you're going to be able to do it twice.
Oh, well, they weren't able to do it twice. So
yes, exactly.
Despite them making several. There's a company in Germany who wants to reboot Das Boot. More boots in the boot. In this one, not a lot of information. It could be a TV series. It could be a film. So since I don't know what the fuck they're doing, we're moving on.
Yep.
Death Wish. Now, this one, Bruce Willis is attached. Okay. Old revenge movie. Being that Bruce has turned into a douchebag in his older years, I just don't see this being good.
No.
Unless he can just let go of some of his crap in his head.
I kind of have to agree with you on that one. And really, is it one of those stories that needs to be retold? Is it a strong enough movie to justify remaking it?
Yeah.
I mean, Bruce has gone to a lot of straight-to-video action films.
Yeah.
Right? Or very low...
Yeah, is he even a draw to sell this at this point?
Exactly. It's unfortunate because he's a lot of fun on screen when he's on. But really, do we need another rebooted action franchise?
Yeah, and I would have never even considered this a franchise anyway. So.
Well, they
did.
They did. I mean, and it was the death knell of Charlie Bronson's career. At the end of his career, that's all he was making were really bad Death Wish movies.
Yeah, and I don't know. I might have just come out a little too late into these type of movies, but it's never once like I look at Charles Bronson, I'm like, why did anybody buy this guy as an action guy? I just don't see it. I never have, never will. They're talking about redoing Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which we did that on episode 13. And it in itself was a remake. So we covered that when the original one was Bedtime Story, and of course Steve Martin's Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. They're talking about doing it again. Well, even we talked about a little bit about that on a couple of different episodes.
Yes.
Now, Heartbreakers is also a soft remake of that as well. And right now, Rebel Wilson's the only one really attached to this thing.
Which, in and of itself, is somewhat intriguing to me. But again, she's one of those people I'm getting a little bit of overload on. Because she really does play the same character in everything she does.
Like her dad. Not that we didn't just talk about him.
Yeah.
Okay, another remake here. Well, I guess they're all remakes. Don't Look Now. I know nothing about this movie. I guess it's an old 73 horror movie. And as we've looked at old 70s horror movies in the past, they are good territory for remaking these things. They're fairly simple to do. You can jazz them up a little bit, dress
And
them
we've
up.
seen so many done right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a litany of them, and we won't get into that. But this one I'm interested in seeing because I'm not familiar with the original movie, so I don't have any personal investment in the original movie.
Neither do I.
Right.
And that could be the secret, is they can really stretch on this one, because I don't think it's as beloved as they're, maybe this article is saying. They say classic, and I'm like, I don't know, I haven't even heard of it. Apparently, Donald Sutherland is not overly thrilled about a remake of the movie, though, so he obviously liked it.
Well, was he in it?
Apparently.
Okay.
I'm looking at a picture of him, so yes.
Okay. So, I might go back and watch it, and just to see if there's any merit in a remake. Because this one actually is probably one of the more interesting ones to me, because I don't know the source material.
Yeah. Now, another Disney to live action, Dumbo. Who fucking cares? I didn't like the cartoon. I'm not going to like it as live action movie.
Yeah, exactly.
It's dumb. It's in the name.
Yep.
It's in the name. Dungeons & Dragons. They've done 3 of these. Only one of them hit the theaters.
This isn't even a remake. This is rebooting an already dead franchise they've never been able to do right.
Well, and it just baffles me, because if they just spend the money, this is their Lord of the Rings. This is a replacement for it. It's all there. There's plenty of source material they can do.
There's oodles. There's books. There's
specifically
game modules.
the Salvatore novels, I think, is the best stuff to adapt. Go serious with it. And they really went kind of campy with those movies. Don't even re-release them. Make people forget about them. They're fucking horrible. Just move on.
Just move on.
Gonna do it. And then, if anything, maybe drop this. If you want to get rid of the stink, use one of the other names of the D&D spin-off books and games, Forgotten Realms, whatever.
Yeah.
Lose the Dungeons and Dragons,
or just call it
D&D. Everybody knows it, but there's a bit of a stink to it now. Yeah.
And I mean, realistically, there's so many things out there right now that show you how to do it right. I keep coming back to it because it is so incredibly well done. Game of Thrones shows how well fantasy and can be done on screen. Same with The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. As much as the movies bore the hell out of me, they are really well done.
Yeah, and it's really because of the characters and how well they're developed and their interactions with each other. Yeah, I don't know about this one. I mean, there's not a good history of adapting video games and board games to the screen so far. Warcraft is another bomb, so another long litany of them. So I don't know. You have my take on it. Go serious. Go to some of the strongest source material you can, and you might have something.
You might.
I would just love to follow Dritz for 3 films or something.
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. So, yeah, go with that. They're looking at remaking the 1983 horror movie The Entity. I've never seen the original one, but it looks like James Wan is circling around this one, and if James Wan is attached to any kind of thing, it's just a license to print money at this point with all the horror franchises he's started and then moved into other franchises and been successful. So I think it'll be good either way.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about it.
I remember The Entity vaguely. Again, I was only about 13 when it came out, and it suffered from one of the toughest stigmas of the 80s. Is by the time that movie came out, we were already starting to see the advent of the slasher horror. Right?
Yeah.
And people weren't seeing these cerebral supernatural horrors as much as they are now. Like it's really made a comeback. The supernatural, spiritual terror really is very popular right now. So I think it could do really well.
Yeah.
If it's done right.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if that supernatural thing is starting to wind down or not. But given the current box offices on Conjuring 2, they get it done sooner rather than later. they'll be fine.
They should be fine, yeah. If they do, please do it really well. Don't cop out.
Yeah, just go dark, and don't drag your heels and just try to clip from the movie.
And
I'm not even familiar with it. I don't think a lot of people are. So it's a movie you can really just take the central conceits and then remake whole cloth. Just take those themes from that movie.
Exactly, and make sure that your story is solid. Make sure that you're not relying on the boo ghosty scares. Mm-hmm. Make sure that there's a story there, because that's my one big beef about all these supernatural horrors that are coming out. It's like, there's a ghost in a house.
Yeah.
Please be more creative.
Yeah. Did that thing move behind her?
Yeah.
Who fucking cares? Yeah. I'm sick of a lot of them, but although the Conjurings I like. Escape from New York, I don't see it. But I
this
don't like
falls into my why category.
I'm right with you there. I didn't like the original. The sequel's even worse. It doesn't make a ton of sense to redo this one. Granted, there's probably that hinge of an idea that could be something, a better action movie there, and that's just it. I don't see it it's just going to be a popcorn movie. It's just, regardless of what they do with it, it's going to be a summer popcorn action movie. And it's not going to make much of an impact.
See, I do have a special place in my heart for the original, probably because it was the first John Carpenter film that I ever saw. Right? And I love the character of Snake Plissken in Escape from New York. I don't even want to talk about the second one. It doesn't exist to me. It's dead to me. Except for Bruce Campbell in that movie, because he was fun. But yeah, it could be updated. I think that this one, as I'm thinking about it now, after I just went, this is my why category, is it could be updated. What would be a lot of fun is to have Obama be the president in the remake.
Yeah, he's going to be out of a job soon.
Yeah, I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Actually, now that you say that, I'm like, well, if you keep some black humor in there, that could be a lot of fun. Now, replacing Kurt Russell again, I think it's a little more replaceable than Big Trouble in Little China, but they seem to having some trouble casting that so far. Charlie Hunnam was attached.
I was one of the names I was about to mention as a possible cast.
John Bernthal, who I think is the Punisher right now.
Yeah.
And Dan Stevens, who I don't even know who that is. So
yeah. And again, I'd like to see Travis Fimmel is another one of those great actors who can play sort of that rough character. So there's some people out there who could do it, but who can do it with the sort of that snide humor that Snake Plissken had. That's the tricky part.
Yeah. Now, I think this one's actually getting close to completion. Explorers is being remade. Joe Dante's 1985 sci-fi adventure that originally starred Ethan Hawke and River Phoenix is being remade. And it's being written by Jeff Moore and Dave Possamentier, Better Living Through Chemistry, with the guys behind the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie as producers. Me. I don't even remember that one, honestly.
Yeah, no, it
was
was
a childhood favorite, but
it's one of those movies you were aware of in the 80s, and I think it was aimed at an audience younger than I was when it came out, and I never did actually see it in the theater. I've seen parts of it. I don't know if I've actually even seen the whole movie all the way through.
Okay, well, neither one of us can comment on that one. Now, one of my favorites growing up was a 1966 sci-fi adventure called Fantastic Voyage. Oh. That's where they inject these guys into the bloodstream of somebody to help save their life. Now, James Cameron's been circling around it, and Guillermo del Toro's in talks to direct it, and David Goyer is currently scripting it. You can't argue with what these guys have done in the past. I still think it's a wonderful movie now, and that those cheesy 1966 foam effects that are floating around and stuff. With the advent of computer effects and stuff, that could really look interesting.
I think this one would do well by being remade, as long as they are true to the original story, but still add something to it aside from just special effects. Right?
Yeah, and I'm a little worried it's just going to be more about special effects than anything else. I think the original story is a very strong one, and the way that crew on that ship relates to each other, that's where you got to concentrate on it, is the people involved and how they relate to each other, because you're just traveling down a bloodstream, so it's going to look really nice outside the window and whatnot.
But you get bored of that really fast if the story's not good. And I mean, there's so many good examples of science fiction, and this is science fiction, films that are really well told, that have good effects, and still have a story.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be reworked with current understanding of biology now,
of course,
and how that works. So the white blood cells eating off the suit and stuff to reveal skin and whatnot. Like, I don't know if that's going to work anymore.
No,
those old cliches and conceits.
Yeah,
of the 60s sci-fi.
Well, yeah, and of course, there's also the fact that we have stem cells and nanotechnology now. So it's going to be a tricky remake.
Yeah, and it's going to be pretty much have to be reworked top to bottom, and the science has got to be fairly solid for a more savvy movie-going audience to buy. So that's where it's going to really come down to, is getting their scientific jargon convincing, and of course a cast that has a lot of chemistry with each other.
And acknowledging the existing science that would be competing with this miniaturization technology.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Brett Ratner is attached to Five Fingers of Death. Okay.
Dead silence.
I'm so unimpressed with most Brett Ratner movies that alone just done. All right. Of course, Flash Gordon's been on the list for a long time. You can go to episode 29 for our take on how that goes. And lots of people have been attached to this one, and probably a big list is going to continue to get circled around this. I don't think this is coming anytime soon. But Matthew Vaughn was the latest in a long list of names, and I certainly would love to see him tackle that.
I could buy that.
Yeah, because he'll do it right.
Yeah.
We've talked about how to do it, so go to that episode and watch and listen to that one. Next one up is Flatliners. This one's actually a favorite of mine, so I'm a little concerned about it, but because a lot of that came down with the chemistry of the original cast members. They currently have director Niels Arden Oplev attached to this one, with James Norrington, Ellen Page, Diego Luna, and Nina Dobrev. So really, I'm only familiar with Ellen Page.
Nina Dobrev I'm familiar with as well, but no, it could stand for an update, but you're right. A lot of it had to do with the chemistry of that cast. Yeah. And let's face it, when that movie was made, the star pool, for lack of a better way of putting it, was much smaller. Mm-hmm. There were a small selection of go-to actors, and most of them had already worked together before. And certainly they knew each other as part of that young Hollywood set.
Yeah.
So they'd already developed friendships and relationships outside of that. I think Kevin Bacon is the oldest member of that cast, or at the time. I mean, he was already a very established actor and had been acting for much longer than everybody else in it. I mean, Oliver Platt, I think this was his first major film, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that cast just gelled so well. Kiefer Sutherland. Julia Roberts before she really popped.
Yeah, well, and they were dating at the time too, if I remember correctly, or engaged. So yeah, there was a lot of chemistry there, and I mean, Kevin Bacon, I don't care what he's in, he makes everything he's in better.
Everything's better with bacon.
Exactly, everything's better with bacon, and it's true when it comes to films as well. That doesn't make them good movies, but it can make a steaming pile of shit just a pile of shit.
Yeah,
when he's in it. Wild Things is a great example.
Yeah, another one up here is another Disney movie, Flight of the Navigator. We've been talking about doing this one on a future episode, so given that nobody's really attached to this one yet, director Colin Trevorrow is looking at it right now, so we might get to it before they do. Right now, I think it's going to be a little while off because he's also directing Star Wars Episode 9, so he's a busy dude, and that'll give us a lot of time to rework this because it's actually on my list, so watch that for that one in a future episode because I don't want to talk about it right now.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th. Did this really go away?
I don't even want to talk about this one.
Yeah, honestly, most of them are. I mean, we all love the franchise, but you really look at it, there aren't very many good ones. I had an interesting take in the back of my mind. I'm like, I would love to see it as a kind of bit of a murder mystery. I'd actually have Jason running around in the movie unlike he was in the original Friday the 13th, and I certainly wouldn't make it a clip show of kills like the last remake was. And have his mother around is another misdirect.
Well, kind of like the original was for the most part, because it was a mystery.
Multiple killers, but the ones that are the most impactful aren't actually coming from the supernatural serial killers. So I don't know. That's how my take on it. I'm sure they have a very different take on it. I don't care, honestly. This franchise has just gotten to the point where
it really has become a parody of itself.
Yeah, and with a TV series also in the works, I'm like, guys, what? Like, are you just trying to bleed this dry as much as you can? I think it maybe deserves a rest. The only Friday the 13th thing I am looking forward to is the video game, which I've been following the development on, and I think it's going to be like that Aliens game, just running a lot from Jason.
Well, it'd be a lot more fun if you got to play Jason.
Oh, yeah, that's true, but then, Million Moms is going to go ape shit. You're playing a serial killer.
Wouldn't be the first time.
The Fugitive.
No.
Okay, I agree. I don't know. We already know it's the one-armed man.
Yeah.
So, and can you do it better than the Harrison Ford movie? They tried it on television again. Didn't work.
They tried it with that U.S. Marshals or whatever it was, and without Harrison Ford, it goes nowhere.
I mean, you could probably get the strongest actor you can on there, and it's just rerun it on TV. It's good the way it is. I don't know if there's really anything more you can add to this one. It's time to leave it alone. They managed to catch it once, but trying to make a franchise of something that's not franchisable, it's a standalone. It always was.
Yeah.
Ghost in the Shell. Now this one blew up the internet when Scarlett Johansson was cast in it because it is another live action remake of a Japanese anime, and now this one I'm a little more on board on because I don't think it's race specific. It's a big city. The Japanese do like to mix up their casts in there.
They do
and
have a lot of anglicized characters in
anime in general, and especially that one. Yeah. So I don't see the arguments as much as the internet does, because hey, it's anime. Can you tell what race they're supposed to be? It doesn't really matter. I think you mix it up. You should have a very multicultural cast in a very big sci-fi city, because in the future it should be that way anyway.
It should be very William Gibson-esque, where it's where there literally are no cultural borders anymore. It's all kind of mishmashed, and everybody's just everybody.
Yeah, I agree. So hopefully they're thinking of that along the way. But I, for one, looking forward to it. Going in Style. Now, this movie I'm not familiar with. It's a 1975 comedy that starred George Burns with three older friends that, out of boredom, just go robbing a bank. I think that's fantastic. It could still work with an older cast.
And we've talked about the how many wonderful older actors there are available in Hollywood right now that are still working.
And being that I'm not familiar with this one, just reading this, I kind of want to go find it because I love George Burns. Zach Braff is looking at making this his third film as a director. Okay.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
I'm on board. I don't know much about it, but I am totally on board. They're talking about Sam Raimi's talking about bringing back The Grudge. I didn't know it went away. The last remake, the first remake was fine. You can make some arguments about the follow-ups, but I like 2 and 3 as well. I think it's done. Like, is anybody really interested in more J-horror?
I was about to say, the J-horror trend is kind of done right now.
Yeah, I agree. Headhunters. I honestly don't know what this is.
No, it's another foreign film.
Yeah, it's another foreign film. Mark Wahlberg has expressed interest in it, which kills mine. It's based on the book by Joe Nesbo. It was a 2011 Norwegian film, which actually I kind of want to watch the original now.
Yeah, it's funny how now it's like, well, I don't know about the remake and don't really care about the remake, but I want to see the original.
Yeah, because there's some interesting films coming out of there. Clive Barker is penning a remake, or more of a reboot, of Hellraiser. And it doesn't look like it's going to be the kind of the smaller movie that the original Hellraiser was, that was in that one house, kept it low budget, but really focused. This sounds like it's going to be more about Le Marchand, and he's they've moved him to a prison island, and it's a story of what happens to him next. I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. It's taking it in a new territory, might freshen up definitely a franchise that is kind of waned.
Again, turned into a parody of itself.
Yeah, it just repeats itself over and over and over again. So taking a new territory, I'd like to get more into the history of the Cenobites. I really like that idea. So now if they put the budget behind it, and BMX doesn't seem to want to, so I don't know. This could work, but it gives me some hope that it is Clive Barker at least penning the thing, but it doesn't sound like he's going to be directing. So.
Yeah. Well, and when the original creator of the material is the writer, you hope and pray that he's going to breathe new life into something that really desperately needs it.
Yeah, I agree. So that's a wait and see thing. I don't even think it's actually been given the green light yet, so we'll see. Highlander, I think they've been talking about it a while. We've already proven that there can only be one many times. It's like the never-ending story, but if you stop it, then it's redundant. And in this one, if you make more than one, it's also redundant. So really, the first thing you got to do is redefine the rules of the world. And that's going to be tricky in of itself. And really, the only good one is the first one. And arguably, the television series that came later was really strong as well. And
they explained why there were two kind of lines of Highlander, in that series, explaining that there was like bloodlines or something that were sort of tied to it, which explained why there could be Connor clan.
I would certainly ignore the science fiction nonsense of the second film. Just leave that shit out. You know, I'd like to think of this as a race of immortals is born every few generations. There's a cycle of them, and you could be the last. There can be only one of that generation, and then you move to a different generation. I don't know, because the prize is never really defined anyway what that is.
Mortality.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that at the end of the movie, and that's what made that special.
Winning the choice to die.
Yeah, is that is being able to love and
they did really undermine their own story by changing that along the way.
Oh, they really did, because that's what made that first movie so amazing, because it stood alone and it should have been left alone.
I like the idea of them thinking there's power behind it.
Yes.
Rather than what the truth actually is mortality.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that idea. If you can go to that conceit, go back to that romanticized action movie, I think that can work.
Yes, I think it could work.
But given how they've handled Highlander in the past, probably won't.
Probably won't, because they want a franchise.
Not much on this one, but they're looking at Joe Dante's werewolf movie, The Howling. I think it's definitely primed for a remake, but given all the Universal stuff on here, could get lost in the mix. Just maybe bad timing. Yeah, they may be
able to capitalize on it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right? If they market it right, they could capitalize on the whole reboot.
Yeah. Right now, there doesn't seem to be a lot of interest in those classic horror tropes, but if handled well, it could work.
I think the Wolfman shows up later on the list, and we'll talk about that if it gets there.
There's a couple more werewolf movies on here, and some I would do, some I wouldn't. Yeah. So, The Howling, I think I would do.
Yeah.
But I don't remember a lot of details about that movie, so I think maybe
it's dated. Yeah. It is certainly dated. It was dated within 3 or 4 years of it coming out.
Yeah. So.
And the multitude of sequels that came out after it.
Yeah, given there's nobody really attached to it, we will probably handle that before they do.
Yeah.
So look for that in the future episodes. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Now, I think this had a great angle when it came out. I don't think it was very well executed the first time, and they were trying to really capitalize on the similar feel of Scream and whatnot.
And they were trying, again, this is...
And a lot of people do love it, but I'm not one of them.
I enjoyed it for what it was. And I see this more as I get older, and I'm starting to sound like the grumpy old man. But what I'm seeing, and even back then I did kind of notice it, is this type of movie tries to capitalize on the hot young stars, the hot young TV stars, hot young movie stars. Because, I mean, you look at the cast on that, you had Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Freddie Prinze, and I can't remember who the other actors are in that, but those three were certainly in it. Mm-hmm. And they were all hot on TV or I think Freddie Prinze had just come out with a series of a couple of hot summer comedy kind of things, and that doesn't always work. I think sometimes you need to, as we try to do on the show more often, is think outside of the box and find these young actors who deserve to be hot actors but aren't because people aren't casting them because they're getting passed over for the Scarlett Johanssons and at the time Sarah Michelle Gellar and Jennifer Love Hewitt were the ones everybody wanted in their fucking movies, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't. I want to see them working. Don't get me wrong. They deserve to work. There's a reason that they're hot, but they don't have to be your only choice.
Yeah. These type of movies are to make that push from television to film. Like, horror movies are a good stepping stone. Sarah Michelle Gellar did a couple of them, and we saw, especially around that time, people were making that, especially the females, the teen female leads, were making that transition from TV to film via horror.
And for some of them it worked. For Neve Campbell, it worked very well. For Scream,
I'd say they probably, it was probably better for their careers than anything they did on television. It got
with the exception of Sarah Michelle Gellar, because her movie career has been less than stellar.
At the time, it was. Like, she was getting a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, most of it was horror that people were going to.
Yeah.
Like The Grudge probably did more for her career than anything.
That was post-Buffy, though.
Stuff. It was post-Buffy, but that's a transition, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, nothing's really stuck after that.
Yeah, unfortunately. Because, I mean, there's no questioning her talent as an actress.
Yeah. Now, Mike Flanagan, who was the director on Oculus, which I really liked, is behind this, so could be pretty good, but he's also committed to Ouija 2 first, which I have to question their sanity on that one, because did anybody see Ouija 1? Anyway.
Yeah, I would like to see it go the other way, and I actually would much rather see a remake, reboot of I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah. Given how unique Oculus was, I'd rather just see him go to a new property.
Yeah, why go to somebody else's properties?
Yeah.
Good point.
Inspector Gadget.
No.
It's currently being produced by Dan Lin of the Lego Movie. The new CG TV series is doing fine. Just let it be.
Yeah, why does everything have to be...
Yeah, I mean,
go to the big screen?
If we've proved anything with the Matthew Broderick, Rupert Everett one, yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, and they did make a direct-to-video sequel of that too.
Oh, yeah.
With
they did, didn't they?
Yeah, with what's his name, French something.
It obviously did okay.
You know, the first live-action film had its moments that were actually not half bad, and actually Matthew Broderick was actually really well cast as Inspector Gadget. He brought the right look and tone to it, but it didn't really need to be made. Again, it's a much beloved animated series. The new CG series I have not seen, so I have no opinion of it. As a matter of fact, until today, I didn't even know it existed.
I think it just started on Netflix.
Yeah. So, you know, given who's involved with it, with the Lego movie producer, it may have potential.
Yeah.
So that one I have no real opinion on. I'm not their audience.
Yeah, true. Next one up is The Invisible Man. Now, Sony is behind this one, which makes it not a Universal movie. You got to think Universal's probably think about this as well because of their Monsters universe that they want to start. Johnny Depp is looking to star in this.
No.
I can see it, but I don't know. It could work, but it's also not the only movie on here that contains an Invisible Man. So
yeah, no, no slight on Johnny Depp because I don't dislike Johnny Depp in any at all. But
yeah,
but I'm just tired of him playing these franchise or trying to reboot these franchise characters.
Yeah, I kind of miss Johnny
being Johnny and
doing weird indie movies and stuff because that's where he's shown the first part of his career.
Yeah.
Now he just feels like he's playing it safe and. Yeah, it's unfortunately it's been a while since I've liked a Johnny Depp movie. We just actually saw a picture of the new Pennywise that hit the internet just this week. Actually,
yep.
I don't know. This one's a toughie for me because the original one was a TV movie. It's a really dense novel, and I think they're planning it as a 2-part movie.
That's what I had heard. I don't know if there's any truth to it yet.
Yeah,
but part of it was going to be the story of the losers. Like they were going to separate the stories. from past and present, and I don't know if that's going to work.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of that in the TV series kind of did that too, didn't they?
But it was a 2-part TV movie, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was.
And I mean, it's told in both time frames, but it's told in tandem, right? Whereas they're talking about actually separating the stuff that takes place in the past as one movie and the stuff that takes place in the present in a second movie.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know if you can separate those two things and still come up with the same resolution that you did in the original TV miniseries or the book.
Yeah. Bill Skarsgård is going to be the new Pennywise, American Horror Story. We've seen him be creepy.
What's the series, the TV series that he was on with, where he played the vampire? Not True Blood. He both him and his brother played vampires. But I can't remember the other one.
I don't think I watched it.
It had 3 seasons. You have seen it. I think so. I think you've seen it. I don't know. Anyhow, moving on. But yes, he's played creepy before, and he does it very well.
Oh, was that Hemlock Grove?
Yes, that's the one.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was Hemlock Grove. Oh, and that's probably what I was thinking. He wasn't actually American Horror Story. Yes, definitely Hemlock Grove. He was excellent on Hemlock Grove. Yeah, I was thinking of somebody else. Because I'm a moron.
Well, I couldn't remember the name of the show.
So we're talking about so many actors. I'm starting to get them confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Tim Curry's performance is going to be really tough to do. And I really haven't seen enough out of Bill Skarsgård to say yay or nay. I think they're going to go probably more visual over performance. And
I don't know, because he's... I mean, again, admittedly, I have to agree. I've been limited to seeing his performance in Hemlock Grove, but he brings an intensity when he's on screen that I think he could bring. I think he's going to bring a different kind of creepy than Tim Curry did.
Yeah.
Right, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. You don't want to just mirror somebody else's performance. That doesn't bring anything to the film.
No, I totally agree. Okay, this one could be a tough one to adapt. It was a tough one to watch in 1991. Jacob's Ladder. Honestly, I've seen it. I couldn't really tell you much about it at this point because it's such a strange movie. But the message behind it, I think, is still... I think they'll probably go less psychological with it, but the message behind it is still a very solid one.
Yes, absolutely.
This one, I'm so not sure about. Dwayne Johnson attached to another one. A script by Zach Helm, Jumanji.
Okay, not a remake.
Not a remake.
Not a remake. Also read recently that this is a continuation. It follows. It does not disregard the first movie.
Okay, that's fantastic. Yeah. I'm glad to hear it. Which could still be a bit remakey, as we've seen. We can revisit the same ideas in continuity. So there's probably going to be some overlap in there. But I'm very happy to hear that, actually. So it makes me wonder what The Rock's role is going to be. Obviously, we're not going to get Robin Williams again.
No.
But it's nice to know that they're still acknowledging his part in it. So.
And I think that's part of the reason they made the decisions they did was because of the history of the film. Mm-hmm. They wanted to pay homage to that, I think, is part of it. And also knowing full well that the original movie itself doesn't bear remaking, but it certainly could be franchised.
Yeah. Now the next one up is another Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Okay, what's the point? Part of what made Jean-Claude Van Damme movies great was Jean-Claude Van Damme. They're not good movies to begin with. You watch it for his martial arts. Not his performance, not the story. You watch those movies to watch him kick the shit out of people.
Yeah. Now, this one's Kickboxer, which was a bit of a passion project for Jean-Claude Van Damme. And he would be stepping into the Master Chow role for that, which was originally going to go to Tony Jaa, who bowed out. So it's kind of nice to have him back in there as the mentor character. They still don't have their lead actor. Dave Bautista is also involved, and Georges St. Pierre. So I'm not sure where this is going. It's not an overly interesting movie. Really, it just watches like Bloodsport 3,
Yeah.
It's Bloodsport in the past because it's a period piece.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, like most of those Van Damme movies, they all really were like the first 3 or 4.
Yeah, it was just reiterating Bloodsport with new characters.
That's right. It wasn't until things like Hard Target and stuff where he moved into sort of the broader action role.
Yeah. I in fact, I think it was co-written, the original Kickboxer was co-written by James Dukes, or whatever his name was.
Frank Dukes, yeah.
Frank Dukes, who's the character from Bloodsport.
Yeah.
So, of course, they're going to be the same because it's really all they know.
Yes.
Now, this one I totally agree on. They dropped the ball the first time. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It's based on the Kevin O'Neill, Alan Moore graphic
Two
novel.
of my favorite freaking comic book writers.
Yes, I love that franchise of comics. There's several of them now. I think sticking to that core cast of the original graphic novel is best. Huck Finn, it was not part of it. Neither was Dorian Gray. But and I thought they were good additions to that film, just not handled very well. Now, they're going to be making it more female-centric, but that's fine because Mina was the center of the graphic novel. So that doesn't worry me at all. I mean, I hope the whole cast doesn't go that way because I just want it to stay as close to the source material as possible.
You know what? Anytime you're making a comic book movie, especially when you're basing it off of original source material, you need to look to Robert Rodriguez to see how it's done right when you look at the original Sin City movie. Right, you don't need to do it exactly the same, obviously, but certainly look to it for inspiration as to how to do a comic book movie right.
Yeah,
right. Especially these smaller press type of books.
Yeah, so I think keep it in mind, sticking to that. It's going to be probably a hard R at that point because Hyde can get really violent, and the Invisible Man is really, really lecherous and rapist, and he's horrible.
Yes, he really is.
And Mina is not a vamp. She doesn't exhibit any vampire stuff, but she does bear the scars of the Dracula stories.
Yes.
So it's always a hidden part of her character. I don't know. Still, like, that one's going to be great if they can adapt the material. You're not going to get Alan Moore endorsing it, so.
Nope.
But stay as close to the source material as you can, and I think you'll be okay. Don't make it the crazy X-Men action movie that they were going for, because, hey, Sean Connery ended his career off of that one, and I don't think Steve Norrington's made another movie since either. So I don't let it be a career ender by doing another bad movie.
Exactly.
They have Conan on this list, but as we know, it is not a remake. It is an unbooting.
It is an unboot, yes.
They're going back to the original Conan, and of course you can hear us talk about the Conan and Conan the Barbarian remake in episode 40. Now, I assume it's bringing Arnold back into the role. This is going to be about King Conan. I'm totally on board for that. But I can see maybe this dying on the vine given the performance of the last Terminator movie.
I don't know.
But I would love to see King Conan.
I do read a lot of entertainment articles, and I saw. I don't know if it was a photograph or a mock-up, but if it was a mock-up, it was really impressive. It showed Schwarzenegger as Conan with the graying hair and a beard.
Yeah,
which looks freaking awesome.
Yeah, if they can do Conan, the King Conan, with his wife and a young son growing up in that role, yeah, I'm totally on board. Because as a kid, I liked reading King Conan more than the regular young Conan stuff. A little older, it's going the other way now, but I would be on board for that if it matched the tone and feel of the original film.
Yeah, since completely forgets the second one.
Little Mermaid, another Disney 2 live action. Nobody's really attached this one yet. Hamilton writer Lin-Manuel Miranda is teaming up with Disney for this one. It'll be another live action musical.
Yeah, this one is always been a sticking point for me anyhow, because they took a really tragic Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale and they sanitized it.
Yeah.
Really sanitized it. So I already have issues with the Disney version. As much fun as it was, there's an old animated film of Little Mermaid that was just amazing, and it is heart-wrenching to watch. If you can find it, watch it and see what it's supposed to be. So the remake, I could give two shits about it.
Yeah, I'm with you, but as I said at the beginning of this,
we're not the audience.
Yeah,
we're not the audience.
Yeah, we're not the audience for this.
But this one, I do have a soft spot for the original story. Mm-hmm. So anything following that by Disney, I really don't want it to consider. And for the record, for those of you keeping count, this is the third Disney live action.
Francis Ha and Greta Gerwig are working on a script readapting Little Women. I'm definitely not the audience for this one. It's going to be tough to beat that 1994 one because it's won a shit ton of awards. It's fondly remembered. That one's going to be an uphill battle.
You know, I'm finding more and more that so many of these period movies out of classic novels are getting made, and they're for a very, very specific audience. They're for a very specific type of reader and person who really truly is in love with these classic novels. Because as a adult male, even when as a younger adult male, I had no interest in the type of film. And I'm pretty open-minded, but I've read the books. So I don't need to see the movie because I didn't really love the book. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's something I'm not into either way.
Yeah, I mean, like the Sense and Sensibilities and stuff like that. Those are they can be incredibly well made and well cast, and it's still not going to pique my interest as a male. And I mean, that's unfortunate. That I'm not that open minded. I mean, I will watch it if it's something that my wife or a friend wants to watch. I'll watch it and I'll probably enjoy it. But am I going to seek it out? Do I care about it? Not particularly.
Yeah. Next one up on the list, and I think the last one for part one of our two-part special on these upcoming remakes is Logan's Run. You can go to episode 44 of our podcast, Invasion of the Remake, to hear our take on what that would look like. And it's been long gestating. The director Carl Rinch, James McTeague, Nicholas Winding, they've all been attached to this, including Ken Levine of BioShock was attached to it at one point, and Bryan Singer. Lots of people attached to it. I don't know where they're going, but we do know post-Hunger Games, that's kind of where they're going, franchise. We do talk about that in episode 44.
We absolutely do.
So go back to that one and give it a listen. Now I'm going to end this one. You know, there's tons of stuff. We want to hear your opinions on some of these remakes in the can, whether you're looking forward to it, when you're not. Of course, you can do that on our Twitter feed in small bursts. at Invasion Remake. You could do it on our Facebook, Invasion of the Remake, or send us a long-winded letter over to our email address, Invasion of the Remake, that's all one word, at gmail.com. And of course, like, share, subscribe, share us with your friends. If you see us post anything, really, just repost that on your wall, get more eyeballs on the show. And even if you're not listening to us on iTunes, drop over there, give us a review, give us 5 stars. It takes no time at all. That's the only payment we ask for this podcast, because we don't charge you for all this time we put into the podcast. So at least just drop us a review. It helps rise us on the iTunes charts and gets more eyeballs on the show. So, you know, more listeners, the better. Tell everybody. Tell 5, 10, 15 friends before you drive home today. And, yeah, I think that's it. Anything you want to add to this episode?
Nope.
Okay,
yet.
well, we're halfway through.
Oh, wait a minute. There was a remake on there that we didn't talk about. It was actually right at the top of the list. All Quiet at the Western Front.
Oh, Jesus, yes. It wasn't on this master list, but All Quiet on the Western Front.
Which is cast and is supposedly in production.
It's probably... we're probably going to see that for next year.
Yeah,
and there's already been 2 of these.
There's already been 2, and of course it's based on a book, which is one of the sort of prime commentaries on war. But I don't know how they're going to remake this to capture a new audience, given that people are less aware of that First World War than ever now.
Yeah, that's true.
Even though of all of the wars in the last century and a bit now, it was probably the most horrific because it was trench warfare, which is very different than the way we do war now, or we do war. Oh, that's a frightening concept. We do war. It's like we do dinner. But yeah, it's just really... I'd be interested to see what they do, because I really enjoyed the 1944 version of the film, which was it 1944? Somewhere around there.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, which was right around it was near the end of the Second World War, which is really makes it a really powerful timing. And of course, the book was amazing, being a reader that I am. So I'm interested to see what this looks like.
Yeah, I am too, and it actually could act as a good companion piece to Wonder Woman, also set in World War One.
Yes.
To set up that war for that film. I mean, I'm sure that's not the intent, but it would make people more aware if it came out prior to Wonder Woman. I don't think it will, because if they're in production now, and I think Wonder Woman's in post, that's probably not going to happen. But if they can,
but it could work well in the other way, because
it could,
because you've got this big budget banner film, like this tentpole film that is going to be set in World War One, and people go, "Hey, I've forgotten about this one," or "Wow, this looks pretty amazing. I wonder how good this other movie's going to be." Right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, you could even tie that within a remake, and I'm getting way off topic now, but with Johnny Got His Gun, which is another great anti-war book that has been already received a film treatment, and with Dalton Trumbo being kind of in social consciousness or public consciousness now with a movie with Bryan Cranston, that would be a good time to be looking at remaking some of his stuff that he did publicly.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So, sorry, I know we were trying to wrap it up there, but that was one that I was really passionate about talking about, because it is something that I really enjoyed when I saw it as a younger person.
Hey, no problem. I think that is it's going to be a tricky one. It's a well-remembered one, but at the same time, it's, I think, a forgotten film as well. So that could work. And we had war movies have kind of fallen out of favor as of late. So if you do a really good one, we might see a new trend start again. You just need one to kick it off. So maybe that's the one. I don't know, but we'll find out when we see that movie. I think 2017, 2018
I think
probably
somewhere in there. Yes.
Is either going to be probably late 2017. If not, it'll be it's probably late 2017.
It's going to be an award-grabbing movie, I think.
Yeah.
That's going to be. I have this feeling that's going to be the intent of it.
Yeah, it'll be an Oscar push. Yeah.
Yeah. So they'll want it up before the end of the calendar year.
All right, we'll see you guys next week. I've been Jason.
I'm Sam.
And Trish is off playing with Newfies. So we'll see you next week with part 2 of our news without Trish. And then when she's back, we'll be doing some more remake stuff. All right, we'll see you soon. And we're out of here.